Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Delta Project podcast, where we teach you how to use minimalist diet and exercise strategies to help you maximize your results and achieve a higher state of fitness independence. My name is Matt Schifferle, founder of the Red Delta Project. And of course, this week we are talking with Stefan Rader, who is, we've been chatting back and forth with topics on micro workouts, calisthenics training, breaking out of the dogmatic approach of split routines and very drudgerous type of workouts where it's like, okay, this day you do this muscle group, this day, and having a bit more of a natural and organic approach to our workouts to help it better fit your lifestyle and help you get better results. So, Stefan, welcome to the Red Delta Project.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Very good, very good. And did I get your last name correct there? I should have made sure I'm pronouncing that. Is it Rader or Radar?
Rader.
Rader. Very good. Okay.
So yeah, I like the football team without the I.
Excellent. So you're a certified health coach. You're a PCC, Progressive Calisthenics certification instructor through Dragon Door. And you also have the website formiseverything.com, which I've been spending quite a bit more time on these days, which is fantastic. Tell us a little bit more about your history with calisthenics and how you've come to this type of training method that's very much outside the norm.
Sure thing. So I guess I'm a recovering weightlifter, so to speak. I got interested in strength training years and years ago and kind of followed the standard muscle and fitness bodybuilder workouts because that's what seemed like the right thing to do. Didn't go very far. I'd made some progress, I guess, but it was all way too much volume and I just couldn't do even close to what was recommended. And I'm sure that you have your own history of this sort of thing. This kind of stuff really isn't for every person. So it took me a long time to kind of rediscover strength training as an interest, particularly for me as a married person with kids and a full-time job and a demanding commute. I really let it go. And so I think when I was around in my early 40s, I somehow started to notice calisthenics and found my way to YouTube videos of people like Hannibal for King and the Cavadlo brothers and people who are kind of like rock stars to me now, and really got interested in this because it represented a way for you to get strong, mobile, and flexible in a natural, functional kind of way without the need for equipment or excessive time or complicated workouts or diet plans or what have you. That really appealed to me. It appeals to me in terms of my own personality, but also as a 40-something employed married person with kids who has no time or interest in going to a gym. I just found it and started kind of really emulating what I saw. And it quickly, for me, I saw that you can just kind of take your dogma, your conventional ideas, conventional wisdom for strength training, and you can throw that out the window if you want to. That's exciting for me. That idea that you need to do this many sets and this many reps, and you need to lift this much weight, and you need to rest this many number of days, and you have to eat protein right after, and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started just building up reps, just keeping the exercises basic: push-ups, dips, pull-ups, and squats, some variation of those things. Never really pursued the really fancy moves. They just really weren't interesting to me. And I just said, how many reps can I do? How many sets can I do? How many times can I do this throughout the day and continue to feel better and get stronger and do more the next day? And that's really kind of how it evolved. To me, it's more interesting, this idea of kind of on-demand strength, where at any given moment, any time of the day, you could knock out a set of 30 push-ups. regardless of what you did the day before. That concept is really interesting to me. It seems like it, from an evolutionary perspective, it makes sense. And just from a functional perspective, it makes sense that you could kind of always be ready for strength.
I like that idea. I've always talked about the importance of being quote action ready, and like from a martial arts background, it never made a whole lot of sense to me to be in a state where you're tight, you're stiff, you're sore, you're tired a lot of times. Like, what good is doing a workout on Monday if it kind of leaves you wrecked for the
Yeah.
majority of the week? Because if you can't move and function, then that seems counterproductive in using strength to improve your daily fitness and your quality
Yeah.
of life. So your approach seems much more in line with that. So tell us some of the ways that you were able to figure that out. Like, were there times where you were doing too much? There were times you were not doing enough? Were you listening to your body? What was your strategy?
Yeah, that's really, I guess that's the kind of the next set of questions. The first set of questions would be, do I have to follow conventional protocol? And if not, can I just do, something completely different? And clearly the answer is yes. But then it becomes, well, what can I do, and how much can I do? How much should I be doing? And what does progress look like?
Mhm.
I mean, there are people who are happy with kind of doing the same thing every workout and every day, just get it done, get it over with, and you've done it, and there you go. But I always want to kind of move on to something better, stronger, faster, whatever it may be. So I would say for the first few couple of years, and I looked back and actually found some scribbles here and there and some old blog posts that I made as far back as 2015. That's kind of seemed to be the earliest period where I kind of started writing things down. I'm not much of a journaler. Or I don't document things. In fact, I really like not having to do that. But sometimes I would do it. And looking back through some of these, I was really over the months and years just building up volume. So I would always, with the occasional kind of distraction of saying maybe I should do body part splits, I'll kind of do that from time to time, and then I'll always come back to this full body every day micro workout thing. Um, I would always do one set of something from the push category, one set of something from the pull category, and then some kind of squat as a kind of a round, a cluster, and then do that as many times as I could throughout the day, as many times as I felt like doing. And so really for the first few years, it was a matter of building up volume and just doing more. And you kind of go listen to your body and you say, well, I'm feeling strong in this particular area. Push-ups are feeling good to me, so I'll do more of them. Uh, every now and then I play with adding weight, but again, I don't like that. So lately I would say, once you get to a point in volume, and I may have mentioned to you that I kind of had as a gold standard these 1,000 rep days where I would do, uh, let's see, what was it, 40 squats, 30 push-ups, 20 dips, and 10 pull-ups. That's 100, and then do that 10 times a day.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
kind of had in my head, if I could do that, get to that point, then I've really arrived somewhere. And that's pretty challenging, and I've gotten there a few times, but I've figured out that it's generally when I'm on vacation and I have all day to do this. Um, and it becomes sort of burdensome mentally, physically too, but mainly mentally to kind of chase reps. Once I get into chasing numbers, and it's true across the board in just about everything, then I get stressed and I don't like it anymore and I want to do something else. So lately what I've been doing is figuring out how I can add more intensity, but still keep the frequency of trying to be able to do some sort of push pull squat, maybe some core stuff too, but usually I kind of skip that every day.
Mm.
So instead of going from all these sets, maybe 10 sets a day, divided out across the day, what I'm kind of doing now is more intense single sets per kind of body, per exercise category. So I'll do, say, one session of push work a day, but I'll try to make it real intense, brief, definitely 5 to 6, 7 minutes, but make it real intense. And then that'll be done. Do a pull one later on, then do something in the squat category later on, and then call it a day. So that's what I've really been playing with and then how much can I do there and continue to be able to do this every day. So I'll do, for example, with pushing, I'll do 5 minutes of push-ups and I'll see how many I can get. And I'm usually around 100 or so. It's pretty challenging. I got this because I saw a lot of videos come through my feed of people doing this, like 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups in 5 minutes. Those kind of videos are all over the place. And I thought, well, I want to try that because I've been doing this stuff for years now. I'm going to give that a try. Now, granted, I'm more than twice the age of most of the people who are doing this stuff. But I tried it anyway. And I ended up getting it in about 8 minutes and 15 seconds, I think it was. 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups. And I was completely wiped after that. I was pretty proud of it. The form wasn't the best, but that's the way it goes. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll start seeing if I can get, improve on that. But what happened was, of course, I couldn't do anything for a couple of days because I was pretty wiped out. So I said, well, let me just play with the concept of, instead of racking up volume without terribly intense individual sets, I'll play with more intense sets but still see if I can keep some kind of a frequency. So I started doing these 5-minute workouts where I'll do push-ups for 5 minutes, see how many push-ups I can get in 5 minutes, or pull-ups, or squats, or one-legged squats, or something like that. And then that got me to what I'm doing now, which is doesn't have to be 5 minutes, but I'll do a period of time where I get as many push-ups as I possibly can, for example, somewhere around 3, 4, 5 minutes. So you're not resting, you're really pushing it. So your reps by the end you're doing 1 or 2 at a time, and you can barely get them. And then I'll rest for a couple of minutes, and then the workout starts, which means I'll do, say, dips. And I can only get maybe 5 by 5. And you try to keep good form. You're already exhausted. You're pretty wiped out. And then there's your workout. It's kind of a pre-exhaust thing. So that's what I've been playing with now. And it's still intense enough that it's hard to do that every day. So I'm kind of playing around with the amount of time and so forth. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I am. So I've gone from heavy, volume of just racking up reps to this kind of playing with intensity.
So with the modification, basically you're playing around with volume, intensity, and stuff. What's your experience as far as the results on everything here? Because you're changing all these different variables. What do you notice about how your body's changing and adapting to these types of workouts?
Yeah, I mean, that's really kind of what it boils down to is this working? And I guess you got to define, first of all, what it means to say it's working. I mean, what are your goals? What are you trying to get out of this? And, I have to admit, I'm not a particularly goal-driven person. I'm definitely not one who writes everything down and tracks progress. I mean, I get a sense of it, and I know how I feel, but I'm not writing things down and then trying to, max out one more rep the following day or things like that. So what I do is I go by feel, and I say, I feel like I'm getting stronger. I'm definitely seeing strength gains. I mean, I'm not seeing a bigger chest or anything because I'm not really interested in having that anyway. But I see, I feel stronger. I feel like more vascular. And, when you're doing this, you'll kind of get to a point, you may have a week or 2 weeks where pull-ups just aren't really feeling good. You're really kind of, you don't feel real strong, and then all of a sudden they do. And all of a sudden, sets of 10 pull-ups, you feel like you could do it all day long. And that's progress. I mean, that's really what I'm going for.
So it's very much like a functional capacity, ability. I mean, I've always definitely believed that results should be fairly self-evident. Like when people are like writing me emails and stuff saying, so how do I know if I'm making progress? I'm like, well, if you're asking me, you probably aren't.
Yeah.
Because it should be very self-evident. Like we don't need to measure the length of our hair, figuratively speaking on my end, of course, but we
Yeah.
don't need to measure the length of our hair to know that we need a haircut,
Right.
or we don't necessarily need to measure out, how long it takes us to get to work in order to know, oh, I'm going to be running late. Like these are things that we have an innate feeling for. So
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're trying to develop more of a feeling of making progress and how the exercise feels and how your body's responding to it from one day to the next, rather than just work hard, cross your fingers, and hope that it all ends up working out for you at some distant point. You're really going with a more close, finite point of like, do I feel good today?
Yeah.
Am I improving my ability this week? Is that fair to say?
Fair to say, and that's exactly right. And honestly, when I try and think about now, particularly, I mean, when I first started doing calisthenics, I was just interested for my own sake. But now, as somebody who's aspiring to move into a career of helping others, I realize where my motivation comes from. I'm 54 years old, and I'm stronger doing this than I ever was with weightlifting. Um, and my niche would be people my age, professionals my age who are employed and have kids and are out of shape, don't know what to do about it, and don't want some big, complicated, time consuming, expensive program with a lot of accessories that they have to buy and strap on and do whatever. So, I mean, if there's anything that I can clearly point to for me, it's that I've been at this for however many years and I'm still motivated and excited to do it and wake up the next day and try again. It's not by any means drudgery or something I can't wait to put off. I don't skip. I don't want to skip. I don't take days off because this is fun, and and it's because I've seen that it's helped to transform me from a 40-year-old moderately overweight person who took medication for anxiety and was fairly miserable and had no strength or stamina to where I am today, which is a lot better, a lot better. I'm not looking to be a YouTube star or anything like that. But I'm, really excited about being able to do this with nothing more than really a floor and a pull-up bar if you need, but you can even get around that.
I like that mentality because one of the ways that calisthenics fits so well is this lifestyle integration.
Yeah.
Like from the same history, like I was, even when I worked in gyms, I found it very difficult to get in the full body part splits, and I need 20 different pieces of equipment to work my chest kind of thing. And every day at a certain time in order to work out, I'd be like, okay, life, time out, everything stop. Nobody talked to me for 90 minutes or so, whatever it took me, right? And then when I was done, I was like, okay, life, time in.
Yep.
And I try to keep a pretty simple life, and even I was having trouble doing that. And I don't have a family, I don't have that much of a demanding job. So when I run across people who are very busy with family and they've got 2 or 3 jobs or students and stuff, and they're like, I don't have time, I don't have the energy and stuff. I'm not one of those guys who will be like, oh, come on, no excuses, anybody can do this, because the fact of the matter is we're all burning the candle at both ends. And so when coaches out there are like, oh yeah, you can get in shape, just adopt this whole other lifestyle, it's like, I don't know, I don't have the resources for that. Like I can't just snap my fingers and pretend I've got time.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't appear out of nowhere. So the calisthenics approach and the ways that you're using it are much more, not so much of a balance, but an integration. And one of the other ways that really makes that happen for the busy individual is this topic of micro workouts, which is kind of how we found each other with
Right.
that phrase, because it's literally like, okay, like you were saying, like 3 minutes, how many push-ups can you do? Good, done, off and get on with your life kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm finding, again, like I'm a trainer, I work out in a gym, I work in a gym, and a lot of times people say, oh, you work in a gym, it must be so easy to get in your workouts. I'm like, are you kidding me? I have so much trouble finding 10 minutes
Yeah.
to do the simplest things. My workouts have to be super quick and efficient, and I have to be able to do them at the drop of a hat. I don't have the time and energy for a 20-minute warm up, change into my clothes, and do all this other stuff. I need these things that I can snack on throughout the day. So these micro workouts are perfect. Tell us more about how you got into that kind of approach of the micro workouts, the smaller bite-sized morsels, and how are you using them in your own approach?
Yeah, I really like your term there of snacking or of morsels. And one of the things I have thought before, I get a real charge out of turning conventional wisdom on its ear, and just saying, yeah, if that's what everybody's saying I'm supposed to do, I'm going to do the opposite. And I kind of got my introduction to the health space by reading The Primal Blueprint by Mark Sisson. A good 8 or 9 years ago, and that's a real conventional wisdom busting approach to life. And so I thought to myself, the conventional wisdom under strength training is you do a macro bodybuilder workout, you do a macro workout uh, once per day, really blow it out, trash yourself, and then do it again 3 days later, and then you eat small meals all day long. And that's the kind of the bodybuilder conventional wisdom. And kind of what I'm doing is the opposite. I do intermittent fasting, and I don't eat very often, and I do frequent workouts throughout the day. So it's kind of turned it on its ear. And for me, I've gotten better results doing that. So really, you mentioned it, working in a gym. I work in an office, and there is a gym in the building that we all have access to. It's not a conventional gym by any means. It's basically a big space with a lot of open floor space, and of course treadmills and stairmasters that I ignore. Although I do use two of the treadmills as a dipping station. You're really not supposed to do that, but it works quite well. There aren't dip bars there, but these work great. And there's also a couple of those TRX bands, suspension bands, mounted on a bar on the wall, which works great as a pull-up bar. So I've got everything I need. So what I do, and of course, as an office worker, somebody at a desk with a fairly technical computer-based job, we're told, you need to get up and move around every 20 minutes as often as you can, so you don't turn into a pretzel at some point. And so what I do is I'll get up and I'll just go up to this gym and do 3-4 minutes, whatever what I described to you earlier, and I'll just do that throughout the day. I used to say, well, I want to do this 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the afternoon and then once at night. But again, once I get into this mindset of sort of chasing numbers, and that feels like chasing numbers to me, I get upset and I think, well, I just want to do what I want to do. So I'll go up there when I feel like I can and want to, and I'll do, whatever number of sets feel good to me. And then I'll do it again when I feel like it. Now and I've been down this road more than once, where if you keep a completely 100% freestyle approach to things, then you can easily kind of slip into not trying quite as hard as you probably should in order to make some sort of progress. So if you're chasing reps, you'll get burned out. But if you go totally freestyle, then you probably aren't really going to do enough to make some sort of progress. For example, a set of 10 push-ups for me, even with good form, really isn't that challenging. And so if I did that, say 5-10 times a day, it's not going to get me really anywhere. So I kind of go with the set now. I kind of think of the set as the universe, as sort of just all I have in front of me is this one set that I'm about to do. I'm not going to kill myself to the point that I'm panting and staggering and can't move my arms for the rest of the day, but I also don't want to waste my time. So I try to get somewhere in between, but pushing closer to failure, so to speak, on that one set. And then I'll do another set of something different, and then another, and then there it is. So it's not structured. It's definitely not terribly objective, but there's a feel that I'm going for where I've really done something here. I didn't just sort of, like the guy who's on the stationary bike with a 2.5 pound dumbbell who's scrolling through his phone and he's barely pedaling and calls that a workout. You want to get to the other end of things where you just did something, you really feel it, and you may feel it for an hour or two, and then it's a good feeling. It's not an exhausting feeling. It's a feeling like you did something, but you could do it again later.
This is something I'm experimenting more with, and I'm fascinated by it, but also intimidated to a degree too, because I'm doing more of a workout style now where I'm basing what I do on a daily basis with how I feel and checking in, because I have a different job right now where my physical activity for the job is all over the map. And some days I'm just wrecked, and other days I'm feeling good, and there's no structure to it or rhyme or reason to it. And having a very strict structured routine, like, okay, this is the day I do these exercises and stuff, I kept finding myself doing workouts that were not in alignment with my physical condition for the day. Like my arms would be tired, my shoulders would be sore, and I'm like, okay, time for dips. And my body would be like, what are you doing to us here? But at the same time, my legs would be like, hey man, I feel great, let's go. And I'd be like, no, legs, you're not gonna work until Friday. And so I started to feel like I'm putting structure before function, where it's like you walk outside and you're like, well, it's December, you have to wear a jacket. Yeah, but it's a warm spell, it's 70 degrees, you don't need a jacket. Nope, you have to wear a jacket. And this is, I guess, where dogma can really derail what we actually need. But so being flexible in the approach of I'll do what I feel is best and what I can do for the day breaks us out of that. But at the same time, I understand where a lot of people, they feel like I need that formula, I need that structure because I can't trust myself. So I think one of the things that you touched on that I want to explore further is that mindset of when you start, your focus is on, I've got to get something out of this.
Yeah.
I have to make something happen here. And I think that's a very crucial thing, because if you are sticking to the routine, there's this myth out there that the routine will get you results. So the guy on the stair machine with 2-pound dumbbells scrolling through his phone at some point may have heard, oh yeah, if you do cardio for 20 minutes and you do like 50 repetitions, that's gonna like be the magic formula. So while his mind is in la la land on his phone, he's doing the routine, he's fulfilling those numbers, but he's not actually stimulating anything because his mind isn't engaged. But the act of getting to a set and being like, I got to make something happen here. Like, this is my chance. What am I focusing on? What am I trying to improve? That mindset could literally make or break the difference in any type of, whether it's structured or more freestyle. Is that what you're finding is the big difference in an effective workout, is that mindset?
Yep, absolutely. It's almost everything, really. And, I know what you're talking about. Because in addition to calisthenics, I ride my bike to work, And in fact, I started doing that before I even started doing calisthenics back when I was, turning 40, and my first child was born and was way out of shape. And I had this really challenging commute, taking the subway into Washington, D.C. every day. And I was really quite miserable. And I remember complaining to a friend one time, and this friend's brother was there listening, and he was kind of a outdoor type guy, and he was just listening to me, kind of looking like, seriously, what are you whining about? Why don't you ride your bike to work? And I was like, I never even thought of that. And never in a million years would that have occurred to me, because I'm stuck in this mindset where I have to get to work this way. And if I'm going to work out, I have to go to a gym and blah, 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 like everything you just said. And, I live in Northern Virginia outside of Washington, D.C. I'm about 12 to 15 miles from work, depending on, where I'm working at the time. And there's a lot of bike trails here. There's a lot of paved bike trails, and there's a lot of bike commuters, and it's great. It took me a while to get there, but I did it. And I slowly got, and so my commute was, when I first started, about 10 miles, which isn't trivial for somebody who hasn't been exercising for a long time. And then I got really into it, doing the fixed gear thing, and really excited about it. I was, and I got so hardcore that I was, kind of known for being the biker guy, and would give talks at work for people who are interested in doing it. And I would get so, I was so adamant about it, and I still do it. I'm not nearly as hardcore as I am, but I still like it. I'm now about 14 miles from my work, and it's pretty hilly. And so with a calisthenics emphasis, I kind of dialed back the biking, because you can't do everything. Like, your demanding job, you can't do a hard workout at the end of a long day of physical activity. So I have to kind of balance this. Well, now with the coronavirus, I don't want to take this crowded metro, train to work every morning like I've been doing lately. I want to get back on my bike, and do it full time. And if I do that, when I do that, it's a total of 2.5 hours of riding a day. I'm not hardcore by any means. I'm not a roadie or anything like that. But it's a lot of exercise.
That's
And so
hardcore, man. That's pretty good. When I was living in Japan, I used to ride to school, and that was 35 minutes one way. So I would do roughly about an hour, 15 minutes a day of riding my bike to and from school. And
wow.
I thought that was hardcore. You're well above that.
Well, like I said, everybody and their brother passes me on the trail, and I'm not by any means a competitive rider, um, but I like doing it. But you're not going to end up doing a lot of pistol squats, every day when you're doing that much biking. So I've got to, like you said, you've got to listen to your body and say, well, what can I do now? What should I do now? I'm not going to quit doing squats every day, but I can't do the heavy stuff. So I'll do something lighter. And on the other side of the coin, I'll chill out on the ride. Like, last night was really the first um, day in quite a while that I've ridden all the way to work and all the way home again. Usually what I would do is, for the ride home, which is much hillier, much more uphill, same hills, uh, I would just take the bike and pop onto the subway and take the rest of the way home. Well, I don't want to go on the subway anymore. I think there's going to come a point real soon with this virus thing where we're not even going to be able to get on. It's gonna be interesting. So I'm going to get back into the biking. But I slowed down. Even on the hills, I thought, well, I could even walk the bike. I ended up not walking my bike up the hill, but I didn't push it hard by any means, all the way down to the grand gear and just taking my time. And so that's really what I'm trying to do. And I think that's what you've said. is what am I ready to do today? What do I feel like I could do? And really with me, the only thing I have to do is something.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it's
keep it
something
going.
is always something.
Yeah.
It's not one of the mindsets that I find people get stuck into is feeling like physical activity only counts or qualifies under certain circumstances. So again, back in Japan, I would ride my bike like 40 minutes to school and I would huff it. I would be moving at a good clip. I'd be trying to really push myself. And then later in the day, I'd ride back. But because in my mind, I'm not thinking that's actually like a structured workout, then I would come home and be like, okay, now I need to go do my cardio because I was like
Yeah.
a cardio junkie back then.
Yeah.
And now I got to go to the gym and stuff. And knowing now what I know, I would love to go back in time. Like, dude, no, you just rode your bike an hour 15 today. You're good. You don't need to go do
Yeah.
your cardio. Just because
Yeah.
you broke it up, it's fine. Just because it's not called a workout, there is no such thing as ineffective physical activity. And by that same token, it doesn't automatically become effective because it fits some sort of dogmatic qualification of, well, I did this many sets and reps, or I used this exercise, or I did this type of workout. Just because you fulfill those numbers doesn't automatically mean it's going to be effective at helping you get bigger and stronger. So there's two mentalities we've got to break out of with that. And the whole idea of what can I do today and how do I get as much out of it breaks us out of both of those.
Yep.
One other thing that I wanted to talk about that I find people can get stuck into is when they go free form with either diet or exercise is they often underestimate what they truly can do. Is they'll do so many reps and stuff and be like, all right, I think that's about my limit. I think that's about as much as I could do. And it's not even close
Yep.
to what they're truly able to. Do you have any strategies that can help break you out of that mold of what you think you can do and exploring what you actually can do?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a really great question because particularly for someone like me who's looking to help people get started on an exercise program who haven't been exercising and are now at a certain age maybe, and whatever physical challenges they have that come along with, they're not going to have any feel for this. And I'm going to find out pretty soon. In a couple of weeks I'm going to be teaching a class at work through the HR department on nutrition, developing a nutrition and exercise program. I'm going to be doing calisthenics. I'm going to look at your new book for that, by the way. But I'm going to have, people who think a pull-up is just, there's no way I could ever do that. It's amazing. It doesn't seem amazing to me at all, but it really is if you think about it. It's a hell of a thing. And I'm looking at my son who's 14, and he runs track, and he's been in track now for about a year, and only started because of track having to do things like push-ups and various other calisthenics. His coaches are having him do it. And I remember when he first started, he could only do maybe a half a push-up or maybe one. His form was just horrible, but he's kept at it, and he started doing pull-ups now. And he actually told me, I don't think I'll ever do a pull-up. And now he's doing good ones. He'll do 3 or 4 at a time. And he's doing micro workouts too. He's doing it all on his own. I never told him to do any of this stuff. And I'm just seeing him progress just real fast because he's a teenager. But there's got to be some kind of understanding of your body. I don't want to be an insensitive trainer who's like, just come on, just do it. But I've been at this I'm familiar with pain. I'm familiar with pushing yourself. And so your point is it's a great question. How are you going to get somebody to really try and do this? If let's say they want to master the push-up, and we tell them, we'll start with push-ups against the back of the couch. or even against the wall or on your knees or something. And, they'll do 3 or 4 and it's really not too challenging, but they'll be like, okay, I did it. I don't know. I would say for me, I think about the set, that set. There's a video I saw a few years ago by Marcus Bondi. Do you know who he is? He's the beach guy. He's my age. I think he's just about the same age as me, 54. And he has a lot of videos on, he's from Australia, and I think they're on some beach there. And he's amazing. He's does one arm pull-ups and rope climbs and all kinds of stuff. And he's just got this amazing attitude. And I saw a video of him talking about this concept of the set and how if you've got nothing else, you've got this set right in front of you where you can do it. You can master this thing and you can do something where you've bettered yourself in that one set. And I kind of try to keep that in mind and try not to waste my time. You know it when you're kind of wasting your time when you're going through the motions. So I would say probably what I'll try to tell my students is pick the exercise that you think you can do. If you can do one good push-up, and form is everything. That's why I called my website Form is Everything. And you've talked about this in your videos too, where you can progress by improving form only, not by numbers. And we've all seen videos of people breaking the push-up record, but they're really doing quarters and halves and bum 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 bum. So if you can do one good form push-up, then in 2 weeks I want to see you do 10, something like that. Instead of saying give me 1.5 and collapse on the floor, in 2 weeks you ought to be able to do 10. And if you do the micro workouts, grease the groove, whatever you want to call it, and you do your one good form push-up again this afternoon, and then again tonight, tomorrow you're going to feel like that one push-up was a lot easier than it was yesterday. So do 2.
Yeah.
If you can't quite get 2, do them. I want to see you struggling for that last rep, not failing or, just quivering and about to pass out, but I want that last rep to be difficult. I don't know if that's too qualitative or not. But like I've said, I'm not a numbers guy. I can't follow these scripts and write the stuff down. I got to go by feel. And I suspect, the people who are looking to get into some sort of a fitness in middle age are not going to want to have to chase these numbers too. That's my assumption. I don't know.
It's a mystery right now to me, because as an athlete, I'm more aware of the fact of there are so many times when I thought I was working hard. I thought I was at my limit. I thought, okay, this is good enough. And then I would be in a situation which would ask 10 times more of me. And I'd be like, oh, hell, I wasn't even close. Like I wasn't what I thought was pretty good and stuff, not even close. And then that kind of scares me a little bit, because I realized that if you stayed there and you always put in that level of effort, you always did that much, it's like you would never even come close to half of your potential.
Yep.
Despite feeling like you're fulfilling it. And I think that's part of an advantage of being an athlete is that limit's there. You know what it's like to do that. But sometimes I'll train people who they've never been asked to push themselves very hard. They've never had to be in a competitive setting. And so they'll go to what they think is hard or a good number, and they'll say, oh, that was my limit. And I'm like, no, I was working with a young gal yesterday. We were doing an exercise with 15-pound dumbbells. And I was like, okay, 20s. And she's like, there's no way I could do even one. And I was like, trust me, you can do this. And the exercise called for 10 reps. And she did 10. And in many circles, doing 10 reps is relatively lightweight. So I was like, yeah, and I can say it. But getting to understand it is difficult, because I'd say, yeah, if the chips were really down, you could do a couple reps with the 30s. She's like, oh, there's no way. So it's more of not so much training our body as the mind. As I always say, training the body is easy. It'll do anything your mind asks it to do. It's training your
Yeah.
mind that's the hard part.
Yep.
So getting out of our way. But I think you're definitely on the right track with being in touch and paying attention, because if we don't have the mind and the body linking up in this way of paying attention, checking in, saying, how are you feeling? What can we do today? If we're just going by the numbers and we're just satisfied to fulfill the requirement of some formula, then we're not even paying attention to what our body could truly do.
Yep.
We're not even checking in and being like, so what do you think you can do? And there's experimentation with this. I think there's a lot of value in, I don't know, just give it a shot, see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, do you think I should try one arm push-ups today? I don't know. Get down on the floor. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And you got to be safe about it. Some things it's like, well, if you don't make it, are you going to be at risk of injury? Well, if that's the case, then you got to be more aware of it. But it's like, okay, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just going to lay down on the floor. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so give it a shot. Let's see what happens. And you might surprise yourself, because
Yep.
we really don't know what our true capabilities are.
Yep.
We truly don't know. So a workout
Very
in
true.
that regard is almost more of just exploring our capabilities rather than just trying to push ourselves hard.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's, it's frankly, I think a lot of people just don't really have the mindset to explore this stuff. And so a big part of the battle may be in just getting people to start thinking in these terms
Mhm.
of what can I do? Like you said, I don't think I can do one of those. And then all of a sudden I just gave you 10. I mean, that's really, I had a great lesson when I took the progressive calisthenics clinic last October, I think it was, in New York, with the Cavadlo brothers. Always wanted to do that. It was a dream of mine. And it was an interesting class because there was a pretty wide range of students, um, and ability levels and interests, really. Some people were in it just because they like it, and others were clearly already fitness professionals and wanted to add something to their resume. Um, I was on the older side of things. I was one of the, there were a lot of young students. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but at the end of the 2-day class, you have to pass a century test, which is 40 squats, 30 push-ups, 20 hanging knee raises, and 10 pull-ups in 8 minutes. And, that's nothing to sneeze at. And there certainly were a handful of students who didn't quite make it, came very close. But one of the most impressive guys there, probably the most impressive one. I mean, there were young guys who could do handstand push-ups and all manner of planches and things like that. But this guy was 69 years old, and he just killed the century. I mean, it didn't even break a sweat. It looked like easy for him. And it turns out he's a martial arts guy. He teaches martial arts. He's been doing it his whole life. And I'm in touch with him on Facebook. And, I'm like, what are you up to now? And he goes, well, I'm doing the century still, but I add 10% per week. So meaning, instead of 40 squats, it's 44 squats, and then it's 33 push-ups. And then the following week, it's 10% more, with keeping that same time constraint of 8 minutes. And he's doing that as a warm-up or a cool down from his actual workout. And, I'm like, wow, that just really points out the relative just scale of abilities that human beings have. I'm sure this guy isn't genetically that much more gifted than anybody else, but here he is with this fitness lifestyle. It's what he does. And he's pumping out stuff as warm-ups that these younger fitness folks couldn't quite even do once. So really, the sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what he's up to now? He's probably doing something even more amazing. It's the same thing with me. Like, for example, I don't really work on the skill stuff like handstands or muscle ups or one arm pull ups or anything like that, because it's just never really excited me that much. And I guess part of me says I'll never do a handstand. There's no way I could ever do a handstand. But the truth is, I could if I really worked on it, and I could probably get it in a couple of months. Like your student from yesterday who did 10 reps when she thought she couldn't do one. It's the same thing, and I'm 54 and I've never really done handstands, but I could probably do it if I really, I'm sure I could do it if I really, really worked on it, if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah. So we're getting into some territory here that makes a lot of people very nervous, but I think this is where the ultimate potential really is, because it's very subjective. It's about kind of woo-woo-y, like how do you feel, your mindset, your emotional state and stuff. Like, we take comfort in feeling like it's about numbers, it's about a formula, it's about getting the exact type of code dialed in.
Right.
And there's such a big subjective rock underneath it. It's like the iceberg thing. The numbers are like the tip, and the subjective stuff is that big, huge bulb underneath the water that you don't see. So understanding it, getting in touch with it, there's no strict plan, but I think the big takeaways that we can get from this is, one is we have to at least be in a communication between our mind and body.
Yep.
We have to be paying attention to it. We can't be mindless on the stair machine thinking, well, as long as it's 30 minutes and that counts or anything. We have to be constantly touching base with, okay, how do I feel? What's the state of my emotions? What's the state of my energy level? And just getting that two-way communication going on a daily basis so we become used to it. Two is, when we do our exercise, is getting in that mindset of how much can I get out of this? Like, I'm doing this to get something out of it. So how do I get more out of this set? How much can I get out of it right here and now, rather than assuming I'm getting something out of it because I satisfy some formula or get a certain number?
Yep.
And then three is recognizing that the potential we have is a mysterious thing, that we're not set in stone, that how we think and feel about our abilities, there's always this little mystery in the back of our mind of like, well, what if? Maybe. Because I've noticed in my own history of training people that as soon as you open up that door a crack to potential of like, well, what if you could do this? What if you could run a marathon? What if you could pass the PCC? And as soon as they take that in and they're like, well, what would I do? How would I do that? What would that be like? Okay, as soon as that potential enters their mind or even in their heart, and they're like, that'd be kind of cool. As soon as that happens, change starts. But when they close it off and like, I'm not that kind of person. Oh no, I'm over 40. There's no way I could do that. No, that's not possible. Boom, that door slams shut and there's no chance.
Yep.
So we've got to have that potential there, but we want to have that black and white, like, yes, I can definitely do this. This is definitely what I can do. This is definitely what I can't do. We take comfort in that black and white dogmatic thinking because it makes us feel safe and secure.
Yep.
And potential and that murkiness of like, well, I don't know, maybe, could be, sort of, it's a little nerve-wracking, but that's where the real potential we can open up really is.
Yep.
It's a very valuable mindset to hold on to.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I think the work that you're doing and the work that I'm planning to do professionally is important, because you've got that mindset of, well, I could never do that. And then, oh, maybe I actually could do that. And then the other mindset is, well, I could never do that because I don't have an hour and a half every day, and I don't want to pay for a gym membership, and I don't know what the diet is supposed to be. We're getting rid of all that, fitness independence. I really like that concept that you're working on, because, well, guess what? You could do that thing and you don't have to do all this other stuff, this daunting stuff to get there. You have to add up your work to probably about the same amount, but you don't have to join a gym or use equipment that you don't understand how to use, or put on special clothes, or take a shower afterwards, or time your meals, or get this much protein, and so forth and so on. And that's where I think this really is a big deal. It's a I think a paradigm shift. For me, in some ways, it's kind of easy, I think, because I started out as a weightlifter, and every weightlifter's mindset is, I got to lift more. And although I wasn't that good at it, I still have that same concept. As a weightlifter, you're not satisfied to go in the gym and do 3 sets of 10 with some weight that's easy. Why would you do that? So, in this other context of fitness freedom, of no gyms, no equipment, no long workouts, you can still get there. You can still get to that point. So you're a person who suddenly realizes, hey, maybe I could do that. Not only maybe I could do that, but maybe I could do that now, starting now, without changing much about my day, without spending a lot of money on gym memberships, by just carving out 10 minutes 3 times a day, or 5 minutes 3 times a day. And as long as I know what it feels like to really perform a good set with good form, so that really stimulated the muscles, and my body learns to do it and do it better, then I'm I'm making progress toward that goal.
Fantastic. Man, I have really enjoyed this. This hour went by like that for me. We got deeper than I thought we were going to get with this. I figured we were just talk like, well, yeah, how do you work out for small workouts? But holy smokes, man, we really uncovered some quality gems. So folks listening, if you made it this far, congratulations. We deeply appreciate your attention. Thank you so much. Check out Mark's website, formiseverything.com. There's a lot of great stuff there. Good gems. It's not this big commercial site with a ton of like distracting ads and stuff. It really is a very valuable source on the internet, which is becoming less and less these days. Highly recommend it. If you're in the area, look him up. Mark, Stefan, where are you these days?
I am outside of Washington, D.C. I work in D.C. and I live in Northern Virginia.
Fantastic. All right, everybody, look him up. Stay tuned for when he gets his health coaching services, calisthenics and stuff ramping up. Stefan, thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it, man.
It was fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate your attention. Talk to you next week. Be fit, live free.